what's up? This is Martha D. Staub with That Hashtag Show, and I'm back to review episode 5 of Lower Decks titled An Embarrassment of Dooplers. Now, this episode has a Cerritos crew stationed near Starbase 25. Actually, they couldn't even get stationed because there was a Doopler effect. The Doopler effect, I guess, would be Captain Freeman is in charge of getting a Doopler safely to the Starbase without them duplicating. Now, what happens is every time that these Dooplers get embarrassed, they duplicate among each other. And so right before the Cerritos docks into Starbase 25, Captain Freeman kind of just lets it all out to saying this is just a difficult task. These Dooplers are annoying. It's, you know, this has been so difficult. I'm so ready for this to be done. And the Doopler overhears her and he starts expanding. And now there was a bunch of Dooplers expanding throughout the ship. It got to a point where it was completely overrun, and you know, the crew had to really be careful and not make the problem worse, but the Dooplers just keep expanding and expanding. In the middle of this storyline though, we do see that Mariner is super stoked to get to the Starbase, which we find out that she actually lived on Starbase 25. That there is this massive Starfleet party that she wanted to get into, and she said, you know, we're a California class, we probably don't have an invite to get into this. But Boimler, you do, because you have a clone and he's on the Titan. I'm sure all the Titan crew gets to go to this party. They end up getting onto this Starbase, having a huge car chase with this thing. Because of course Mariner runs into an old buddy. In order to get the information you need about this Starfleet party, I need you to deliver some merchandise. Right before though, we do see that Quarks is in the Starbase. So that means Quark has done fantastic things for himself. That means he's got a franchise, because we saw him last couple episodes back where he had his bar. And so now it looks like Quark's made a good thing out of himself. Super exciting to see. The merchandise that they have to travel with and to get over is some data bubble bath shaped like bobbleheads. So Mariner agrees to take on the shipment of bubble bath, and come to find out it's actually a cover for some Klingon disruptors. And of course, now that they know they have some very suspicious cargo, it leads them into a high-speed chase, and it ends in a lake with all these little Data and Laura bobblehead shower bubble bath things floating in the lake. So pretty funny to see, but we do get to see that there is the tension between Boimler and Mariner in this episode. Another fun fact that I noticed during this high-speed chase is that we did see the fish people from that epic episode from TNG. I forget what they're called, but you know, they look like a big old fish. At the tail end of this high-speed chase, we do find out that Mariner ended up finding out where this Starfleet party was being held, so her and Boimler make their way to that ballroom, and we do see them in the white dress uniforms, which is kind of cool to see because we don't see that too often. So they get up to the bouncer, and you know, Boimler checks in as his clone, USS Titan. He was able to get in. Mariner says she's from the Voyager D, which is interesting. So now enough time has passed that Voyager now has several renditions of the Voyager ship. So she says she's from Voyager D, gets denied. They end up finding out she's from the Cerritos. So Boimler goes to the party, and it's kind of interesting to see some of the Easter eggs that are in this party. Commander Shelby from Best of Both Worlds, part 1 and 2 of TNG at the end of season 3, at the beginning of season 4, when Locutus of Borg ends up being turned into a Borg. And so her and her number 1 are there. And you know, Boimler's walking around, he's like, this is not as much fun as it should be with Mariner, so he ends up bouncing. We finally get to the root of the problem between these two. You know, Mariner and Boimler finally discuss why Boimler just up and left and didn't tell Mariner where he was going. And he admits that he was worried to tell her because he thought she would talk him out of going, and he just left. That's why he left and didn't respond back to any of her messages, because I think he didn't want that negativity to infiltrate his thought process, because all he's ever wanted was to be promoted and to get these really good promotions and get these amazing assignments. And he was worried Mariner was gonna ruin it for him. So they finally get to it. They finally apologize to each other and they make up, and then they end up hanging out at a bar where Kirk and Spock hung out when they got kicked out of the party too. So it's a nice full circle thing for those guys. So it's great that they made up, and now they can move forward from this incident. And when I say this episode was stacked, I mean it was stacked, because now we also got some insight into Rutherford and his memory issues from his accident from last season. As for the Doopler situation on the ship, Captain Freeman's had enough. She's just over it. She wants to get on the starbase so she can go to the Starfleet party. She lets these Dooplers have it. She says, you guys are a bunch of whiny, sniffling little babies, and she starts throwing out the expletives. She found out when they're being scolded and being punished that they revert back to the original state. So then she sends out an all call to the entire ship that says, all right guys, let them have it. Get your anger out, tell them how you feel, they're gonna revert back. So for a good 20 seconds, there's nothing but expletives going off on this entire show. Like, it's the best thing I've ever seen in a Star Trek show. The Doopler ends up going back to his first state and then gets sent off to the Starfleet party. And then the Cerritos is now able to dock onto the starbase. So we see at the tail end of this episode, Captain Freeman and her crew are trying to get into the party too. They get denied because they're California class. And, you know, Freeman says, you know what? I put up with all this crap like Picard did. I don't understand why I'm not worthy of being in this party. And so we see that the California class ships just are not as prestigious as the other ships. And so Freeman is internally struggling with that. And we saw that last season, but we still get to see a little bit of it expanded in this season. And so it's very difficult for a captain to be turned away at a Starfleet party, but she ends up going to the same bar that Boimler and Mariner are drinking in. And, you know, she says, I'd rather be here than anywhere else. So it was good to see them kind of get together and enjoy a drink. Even though it wasn't as bougie as they thought it would be, they still loved it. So like I said, this episode was stacked. It was entertaining. It was fun from the beginning to the end. They crammed a lot of things in here. Lots of Easter eggs. I mean, Data, lore, bubble bath, and Quarks, I think is franchised. I mean, why wouldn't it be? And a lot of character development. A little bit more of Captain Freeman, which I love. We don't get enough of her. I'd like to see more happening there. And we get to see that Rutherford is really pushing past his accident and really trying to push forward and get back to normal. And of course, now we get to see the resolution of the situation between Mariner and Boimler. So I hope you enjoyed this episode review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have a comment, leave it down below and I will answer you back. And I will see you in the next video. See you later.